This is Mount Sunflower, the highest spot in Kansas, although you'd never know you were at 4,000 feet because the state is so smooth and flat and fertile. Kansas is right in the middle of the Great Plains, a belt of wheat 600 miles wide and over 2,000 miles from north to south. Out here, distances are so immense, they don't use miles anymore, they use the number of hours it'll take you to drive somewhere, travelling at 70 miles an hour along their smooth, arrow-straight prairie roads. And on that basis, 20 hours to the north will take you across the Canadian border, and you'll still be in good wheatland. Heading south, maybe another 20 hours before you run into the desert lands of Texas and Mexico. You can drive east for 5 or more hours before running into anything that passes muster as a mountain. And to the west, 3 hours to the foothills of the Rockies, where the wheat gives way to cattle country. But the prairies aren't only the world's breadbasket, they're also the place where the world's most efficient farmers can be found. Productivity here is built around machinery, and it's got to the point where one man can cope with 3,000 acres, provided he has enough ironwork to get the job done. And on the prairies, there's no shortage of machinery. Although it doesn't take much labour to cope with the cultivation, seeding, fertilising and spraying, when it comes to harvest time, the farmers have to call in for some extra help.
Attention passengers.
And so it is that in April of each year, young men come pouring into the airports right across the plains. They come from Australia, South Africa, New Zealand and the British Isles, and they're nearly all from farming backgrounds. Men like Will Vincent from Dorset. He spends his winters looking after the young stock on his father's dairy farm, where the pastures run right down to the shore along the south coast. It's a beautiful place, with views across Chesil Beach just outside Weymouth. It's hard to imagine somewhere less like the Great Plains of the United States. Most summers, Will works for a local forage harvesting contractor. But this summer, life is going to be very, very different.
Pretty amazing, really. The scale of it all, the size, the equipment. Like over here, you only got like a couple combines. If you're lucky, round it together, and over there, you could have like 7, 8, 9.
Will Vincent will be driving something quite a bit bigger than the old 4000 used for scraping down the cubicles, and he says it's a job he won't be missing. Over in Suffolk, James Porter lives and works on his father's arable farm, some of the best land in Britain. It's a 2,000 acre operation, which means that it's pretty big by UK standards, but tiny compared to the prairie farms he'll be working on this summer. However, despite the size of the farm, apart from the pigeons, there are no livestock, so on a wet, windy spring day, there's not much work to do apart from tidying up around the barn.
It'll be a good experience for me. Big place, a lot of people out there, and sort of never been there before or done anything like it, so it'll be, because it's new, I suppose.
Lenham in Kent is a classic small market town. Pubs, markets, medieval churches and half-timbered buildings. Matthew Barnes lives on a farm, but spends his winters driving a forklift at the local trucking company. And he's a man who really loves machinery.
I do, love big machinery, big trucks, always have.
Have you driven combines before?
Not before, no.
So, are you going to be a truck driver or a combine driver?
Bit of both. We'll be experienced on the trucks and on the combines.
Do you think you're going to be able to handle 1,000, 1,500 hours in a season on sitting in the cab of a combine?
Looks pretty daunting, but yeah, we're giving it a go, getting a shot. Good for experience.
Matthew will be leaving the genteel bustle of Lenham, population 3,200, and moving to a very different sort of town. Edson, Kansas, population 80 and falling fast. It still has a couple of grain stores or elevators, and about 30 houses are still occupied, but they're outnumbered 2 to 1 by empty buildings. Rick Farris was a pupil at the high school. His father started farris harvesting after the Second World War, in the days when combines had 12-foot headers and no cabs. Matt will be joining with a crew of 8 men, including 3 Irishmen, 2 Americans, 1 other Englishman, and Rick's nephew Pat.
Those kids are really good when it comes to mechanic, and they want to work. They like getting in the dirt, pulling on wrenches and all that, and it's nice to have kids that want to do those jobs.